friends, he will not do that because his agenda is different. As I asked him, when just a moment,
Yes.
2011 circular of UPA government, exactly same language. Did you object? Please answer. DMK was part of the government. Did it resign at that time? No, sir. NEET. No state has a problem except Tamil Nadu. So when you say multifarious multi-language, are you saying when this government tries to bring every language at par, says every regional language must be taken into language, must be used for higher education? What is your problem? Only Tamil has a problem? Why no other regional language? They want their language to nurture, to be promoted. It is not done. Three language formula was brought in by Pandit Nehru for India at that time. Did DMK go and try to build Tamil schools in North? No. Nobody treated three language formula properly. That is the reason today there is a problem. So when this government says that let us promote every regional language, only you have a problem. So this kind of
Salim, respond to that. Are these arguments which are built only to rake up emotive issues? The three language formula, as Mr. Sharda is pointing out, is not new. Historically, there have been various leaders and prime ministers who have proposed this. The idea of a linked language is not new. Having an Indian language is a linked language. DMK, is that the only party which has a problem?
No, I think there was protest. There are protests all over India now. Karnataka, there was a protest. JDS had protested. There was protest in West Bengal. There's been protest in Kerala as well. In fact, I think you should learn history. DMK was the only reason why Hindi is not made the national language. That is only an official language. It's because we protested in 1965, and only because of DMK protested, the former Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru gave up imposing Hindi on the states. So we had always protested. Whether we are in power or in coalition or we are in opposition, we have always protested imposition of Hindi. DMK does not speak one thing when we are in power, one thing when we are not in power. Our ideologies are always the same.
British.
And again with NEET, I'm not saying NEET is social, is anti-social. This is not, DMK is not saying this, but research says this. There's a beautiful books are being written by Harvard professor called Tyranny of Merit, where he with data says how entrance exams as such are anti-poor. Tamil Nadu has 4 doctors per 1,000, whereas Gujarat has 1 doctor per 1,000. India has about 0.8 doctors per 1,000. The 4 doctors per 1,000 in Tamil Nadu is on par with OECD countries' average.
Well, so all I can say, Salim, that right? While the union government may have a good intention that there should be an Indian language that should be a linked language, but the politics of it, the sheer diversity of this country, and various other factors that different panelists have pointed out today about the inconvenience many students may face, are the factors that any government of the day will have to take into account. Professor R. Srinivasan, Ratan Sharda, Mr. Salim Dharanidharan and Gokul Chandran. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on the broadcast. We hope that the recommendations of the panel are debated in an intellectual atmosphere rather than the sharp political polarizations that we have seen. With that, it's a wrap. Shivani joins you on the other side. Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. There is no end to targeted killings in Jammu and Kashmir. 2 days after Puran Krishan Bhatt, a Kashmiri Pandit, was shot dead by terrorists, 2 non-local labourers from Uttar Pradesh have now been killed in a targeted grenade attack in Shopian. Manish Kumar and Ram Sagar are in danger of becoming mere statistics in the long list of targeted, bigoted terror attacks and killings in Kashmir, where local politicians have a long history of blaming India while giving clean chits to terror factory of Pakistan, where they keep singing the old tune of Kashmiri aspirations and identity as if that justifies killing innocents. Now, within 24 hours, cops have arrested 2 terrorists in connection with the latest killings. According to Shopian police, one of the terrorists is identified as Imran Bashir Ghani. He's a hybrid terrorist of the Lashkar-e-Toiba terror outfit. But the challenge is also quite clear. While India has broken the back of Pakistan nexus and terror groups' presence in the valley, hybrid terror is turning out to be a monster difficult to slay. What can India do? We will take that to our guests in just a bit. But first, I want to show you more of how these killings have become a low-cost, easy way out for frustrated terror groups wanting to stall the irreversible march of Kashmir to a new direction. 3 innocent men have been killed, targeted just this week in Kashmir. Just yesterday, Manish Kumar and Ram Sagar, 2 non-local labourers, as I mentioned, they've been killed by launching a grenade over them while they were sleeping. Can you imagine? Just 2 days before that, Puran Krishan Bhatt, a Kashmiri Hindu, was shot dead by terrorists. Another brutal targeted killing, one in long line of many, and I'll show you why. This is a clear strategy shift and a trend visible since last year. In October 2021, you would remember 4 innocents were killed in separate attacks, creating widespread panic. Deepak Chand, a Kashmiri Pandit teacher, Satinder Kaur, a Sikh school principal, Makhanlal Bindru, a prominent Kashmir Pandit chemist, you would remember, Virendra Paswan, a street vendor from Bihar. All of these were killings, and very well-chosen, targeted killings of people who either do a certain kind of job or people who are known in society. Therefore, spread panic amongst the minorities and the non-locals in the valley. Then in May 2022, earlier this year, 3 more killings in 1 month. Rajni Bala, Kashmiri Hindu teacher who was shot dead in Kulgam. Rahul Bhatt, a government employee who was shot dead in Badgam. Ranjit Singh, Kashmiri Pandit, killed in a grenade attack. Again, all of these, if you look at the people who are being targeted, it is quite clear that they are being chosen, which is why these are being termed targeted killings. June earlier this year, Vijay Kumar, a bank manager, was shot dead in Kulgam. Clear message against central scheme employees being rehabilitated in the valley, people who come to the valley either as laborers, workers to earn daily wages, or who work, especially in some of the remote areas. They want them to be made to feel unsafe, and many of them do. August 2022, not so long ago, Sunil Kumar, another Kashmiri Hindu, was shot dead in Shopian. Utter bigoted killings, and let no one tell you otherwise, because local politicians have a tendency to whitewash these crimes. The big question we ask today is, what should be our response? How can India tackle this menace of hybrid terrorism which targets the innocents and the unarmed?
हम रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहते हैं गवर्नमेंट से, बार बार 140 दिनों से करते आ रहे हैं। एलजी साहब से हमने यही गुहार लाई है कि हमें जम्मू से कश्मीर से जम्मू को ट्रांसफर किया जाए। सिविल के लिए रोकने के लिए आगे आए और इंसानियत की हिफाजत करें।
किलिंग से हमारी वादी और हमारी स्टेट को, लोगों को नुकसान ज़्यादा पहुंचता है।
यह कभी बंद नहीं होगा, जब तक इंसाफ नहीं होगा कभी बंद नहीं होगा।
Going across to our guests now, joining us, RP Singh of the BJP is with us. Ashwini Bhatt is a Kashmiri activist. Major General Dhrusi Katoch, Director, India Foundation, is also with us. RP Singh, let me begin with you. While the Indian forces have done a tremendous job in the valley, they've flushed out terrorism and terror groups. There is no denying the ground has shifted in Kashmir. Would you also not concede that these kind of attacks that are taking place against unarmed innocent civilians, minorities or non-locals, this is a situation that the government doesn't quite fully have under control?
Well, Shivani, there's a shift in terrorism in Kashmir today. There used to be terrorist activity which was known from across the water which was happening, and government of the day and the security agencies had dealt with that, and that has scaled down to quite a level. But there's a new type of terrorism which has started almost a year back, which is a hybrid sort of terrorism, where there are no routine terrorists. There are some individuals who have been brainwashed, and some weapon, I mean pistol or a small gun, is being given to such people, and they come and do a targeted killing with a community, for a community, against a community, or against certain individuals who matter in society. So this also need to be taken, and then government of the day, the administration of the Jammu Kashmir is already working on it, which is that taking people in confidence. Amit Shah ji was in Valley recently. We have seen his rally there in the valley, which sort of rally, almost more than 35,000 people were there on the ground for the rally, which categorically indicates that there is a churning happening in Kashmir today. People are fed up of all sort of terrorism, and then when the locals start supporting any such objective of doing the cleansing part even for the hybrid. Just where the hybrid terrorism will be tackled with. And
No,
I'm
I
very
get what you're
hopeful,
saying.
very
And like
soon
I
you will
said,
see
of
the
course, we
outcome.
understand this is a shifted strategy. There is no large presence of terror groups right now, and therefore this is a very easy way to continue to spread terror. But sir, the locals are still afraid for their lives, right? The Kashmiri Pandits are still afraid for their lives. Now, you could argue that non-local laborers, people who are daily wage earners have no option. They will still risk their lives and go to Kashmir and work there, even if there is a, specter of being killed in a grenade attack. But you're hearing the voices of Kashmiri Pandits and those who've been rehabilitated in the valley under the central scheme. They don't want to stay. What would you say to them? As you say that this has been a trend over the last 1.5 years, as I showed as well. What is being done to control this?
See, I have all my sympathy and I have all my regards for the Kashmiri Pandits that they are fighting the battle which the nation, they are fighting the nation's battle. But when they are there and then being targeted by new sort of hybrid sort of terrorists, they are fighting the nation's fight against the terrorism. But Shivani, what are the options? I mean, option is that either we give up or we take them head on. So the process is that we take them head on. The condition is much better than what it was before the withdrawal of application of 370 and 35A.
Okay,
At that time,
let
there
me
used to be
pose this
calendar
question to
every
you.
month.
RP Singh, let me pose this
Give me a
question to you.
second. Give me a second.
Yes.
Yes. So every month there used to be a calendar. The calendar for that this all days there will be no one who is walking out. The market, this market will be closed, that market will be closed, and also not that. I mean, there were stone pelters on street. The ISIS flags were being raised outside the mosque. So there's a shift from there to that. Yes, there is better security today. There is better environment today. The locals are being involved. Locals are taking care of the process of the democracy.
Okay,
It's
I'll come
not
back
that
to you, sir.
democracy
Let me just go
has
across to
been
some of my
confined to
other guests.
certain
I do have a couple of more questions to you pertaining to the government's attitude and action on ground. But let me go across to Major General first up. Major General, what do you think? Is there a specific way that the Indian agencies and forces can deal with this kind of hybrid terrorism? Or because we are dealing with this module which is difficult to identify, even elements of society are difficult to be flushed out if they are sympathetic to a certain cause or not. What do you think are the challenges and what more can we do?
Thank you, Shivani. Shivani, let's get one thing clear. What has happened in Kashmir over the last, say, 3 decades is that the terrorists have been one step ahead of the agencies, let me put it this way. So whenever we have tackled a particular problem, and 370 was a very major initiative, and that really broke the backbone, we can say, of the organization. But then they shifted tactics. And now the shift in tactics is really to go after the unarmed Hindu population, I will put it very specifically, to create terror and to give an impression that, listen, this place is not safe for you. Now that is the problem. Now we come down to what can we do. I think there are two things which stand out very clearly. One, when we talk of, I've heard many channels talking of this as lone wolf attacks.
Yeah.
These are not lone wolf attacks. A lone wolf is an individual who operates independently. These people are not operating independently. They have a huge organization behind them. So there is they get intelligence input, they get weapons, and then they get the target. So there is an organization behind them, and we need to find out what this organization is. That organization needs to be targeted and eliminated. That is one. Number two, where is the origin coming from? Now, the origin is obviously some of these terrorists, they belong to India, but the brain power behind it comes from Pakistan. I think it is high time that we started conveying a message to the Pakistanis across the LOC that this is going to be made very expensive for you. And the Indian state can do it. The question is, the time for being squeamish is over.
Yeah.
They are creating a problem in an area which has come down, which has become a very, very peaceful area. In this year itself, in the first 9 months, more than 1 crore tourists have visited the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. It has never happened before. And not one of those tourists have been targeted. So whom are these people targeting? They are targeting the Kashmiri Hindu, and they are targeting the lower end spectrum of workers
The
and
non-locals
laborers.
there. You know, you're very right in saying, Major General, that it's not the time to be squeamish. In fact, I remember months ago when those targeted killings were taking place. For example, earlier in May this year, I did a debate saying, is it not time to go all out? I don't understand what is the compulsion on our side to be softer on terror elements, separatist elements in the valley, while people who are pro-India and are patriotic and are vulnerable and are in minority come under the gun. That's precisely the attitude that I'm pointing out, where we somehow feel throwing money, throwing development is going to win everybody over. It won't win everybody over. You have to be strong and iron-handed against elements who don't care for you.
You're absolutely right. Now, I want to take a specific example. You know, there's the Hurriyat, which is still existing, and their supporters. I think it's high time they're taken in. You see, and there will be a lot of people who will cry horse and talk of human rights, etc., etc. But there is a larger good which we are looking at, and the larger good is that we want peace to prevail in Jammu and Kashmir. Now, if you look at that larger good, then all these people who are the anti-India elements who are there and who freely propagate their stuff, either from the madrasas or from some of the mosques, or even in some of the journals which they are publishing there, they need to be taken care of. And now, unless we do that internally and handle Pakistan externally, you know, Pakistan has to be punished. And internally, we cannot allow them to get away. Now, if you do something like this, I think very, very quickly you will find a change coming out, and we will defeat this particular technique which the terrorists have used to target the population.
Let me also go across to Ashwini Bhatt, who's joining us. Ashwini, you have lost your brother, Rahul Bhatt, to one such targeted attack. I thank you for joining us. What do you make of the sense that is emerging from the employees under the center scheme, or even from Kashmiri Pandits who feel that the situation is just not safe enough for them to continue in Kashmir? Do you believe that moving away, even if temporary, is the solution, or will the Kashmiri Hindu population end up conceding ground if they move away? Should they stay, or do you believe that it is indeed too dangerous for them to do so?
Yeah. Thanks, Shwani. Thanks for having me. I'll put it a little differently. In the current avatar and how, the change tactics that we are, we have been seeing for the last almost a year now. I agree with Major General Dhruv Katoj, right? We have to be ideally we have to be proactive. But even if the state is going to react to the change tactics of targeted killing, I haven't seen any change of policy from on ground. Let me just give a couple examples. This is not about. This needs an integrated approach. It's not about the security agencies alone. They are doing a fantastic job in terms of hunting the terrorists down and killing them. But what we need to do is actually, with this change tactic, go back onto the drawing board and see what options do we have. One is how do we sort of counter the indoctrination, right? We have seen that there is one terrorist is getting replaced by two. So we need to make sure that we are attaching cost to, at multiple levels. One, a cost to an individual becoming a terrorist in terms of making sure that his family is bereft of any government employment or benefits. Number one. Number two, these terrorists, they don't, and Major General would agree with me, it's not that they're living in some forest. They are harbored, they are fed and sheltered within the society. So we need to make sure that we attach the cost.
You're absolutely right there, Ashwini. They are, of course, people who are not terrorists by day, but they are conducting these strikes either for money or for whatever other ideological reasons. How do you identify them? That is the challenge.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. It's a misnomer. See, that's what I'm saying. You need to attach that cost of of anyone where a terrorist is found harbored, you have to have a policy that that house needs to sort of get razed down. If there is a terrorist coming out of a family, that whole family, there are no government benefits, provided to that family. You would have informers within the families. I can bet on this, and I'm ready.
Can I bring in Major General Dhruv Katoch on this? Major General, will such a strategy work?
Shivani, I'm absolutely certain it will. You see, once there's a terrorist and he has been eliminated, we know who that person is. We know who his family is. We know who that village is. Now, that family is a part of the system which has supported this terrorist. That means he's an accomplice, and that complete family has to be put under the Terrorist Act and taken care of. You do that to one family, you will prevent a whole range of accidents happening. So please go after all of them. Number two, the politicians. We have these political parties which are soft, which are very soft on terror.
Yeah, I mean, just because you're mentioning that, let me just mention the likes of Farooq Abdullah are still going on to say that such killings will not stop, they will continue. And jab tak insaf nahi hoga, tab tak hoga. Almost presenting this as some fight against injustice, as if anything can justify this kind of a violence.
Shivani, I want to talk about this. May I just 1 minute?
Yeah, Major General Dhruv Katoch, then Ashwani, I'll come back to you.
Sure.
Shivani, I want to talk about the statement of Farooq Abdullah. Now, he said, insaf hona chahiye. I want to say the same thing. Insaf hona chahiye. So, for the people who committed the genocide of the Kashmiri Hindus in 1990, he was presiding over as the chief minister of the state. I think Mr. Farooq Abdullah, and I will say it openly in your channel, should be tried for genocide, as must all other people who we have records of who committed those acts. Once you do that, that will give a very stern message to all politicians not to indulge in such activities. Shivani.
Yeah. I'm also joined by Farooq Wani, who's editor, Brighter Kashmir, columnist and political commentator. And I'll take that forward, that question that we were just discussing, Mr. Wani. Local politicians seem to be relishing this situation that, innocent and unarmed are being targeted. They may express their condolences, but they use it very quickly, almost at the drop of a hat, very conveniently for their political arguments. Leaving their political goals and quests aside, is it not unfair for local politicians, the likes of the Muftis and Abdullahs, to project this as some sort of a fight against injustice and link it to Article 370 abrogation? I mean, these killings were happening before Article 370 abrogation and they continue to happen. This has nothing to do with that or with some sense of justice. This is just pure whitewashing of terrorism taking place.
See, one thing, so my concern is that the politicians here in Kashmir are so they are batting for us such things which are not happening around. But one thing is clear: they have lost the ground and they are trying to capture it by one way or the other way. But one thing is certain and sure, these killings are. Out of killing of these people are getting widely condemned in the Kashmir, especially if you heard yesterday the Hurriyat office in the heart of the city was ransacked by the angry mob because who are protesting against these killings. And yes, today in Shopian, which is strong hotbed of the military terrorists, these protests have been erupted there also. But so everybody has his concern. Though the politicians here in the Kashmir, they have to be relevant in the politics. Unless and until they will not say something, how come they will be relevant?
But sir, I don't understand. You are saying the public is no longer with this separatist or terrorist mentality, right? That's what you're saying. That they don't stand for such killings anymore in Kashmir. But the politicians continue to give a clean chit to Pakistan, blame India, blame abrogation of Article 370, create these mirages of some great injustice that has been done to the Kashmiri public. They spread fear over demographic change. Kashmir is as much a part of India as any other state. Anybody can go and live anywhere in any other state. So they are also fueling this hysteria, right? They are creating an intellectual ground for such killings against non-locals and Kashmiri Hindus.
See, this Article 370 has gone now. It has no relevance here in Kashmir. But everybody is looking for the development, and the other thing is what is government is trying to get it by all means. So my concern is that the politicians who have to be relevant. That is why I'm telling you they have to be relevant in Kashmir because they have to say something like that which appease the people. Because as I said earlier, they have lost the ground because they want to recapture it. That is my concern. Is that
okay? I get it. But Mr. Vani, can I ask you very quickly, because you obviously write on Kashmir. Before I go give a last word to RP Singh, the concern is that a lot of these hybrid killings and targeted killings are happening from members of society who are not terrorists by day. They're not really recruited, but they are, of course, maybe paid or encouraged in other fashion to conduct these strikes. So the fear is there are still elements in the Kashmiri society who are hiding such terrorists. What to do about that, sir?
See, this is what you are saying. This is a right thing, but this a hybrid system is now prevailing in the Kashmir. Nobody knows who is he. But unless and until the government has to take strong these measures to curb this, otherwise these killings are happening on a routine basis. Today in the morning, in the dead of a night, two non-local laborers have been killed by holding grenade on their residence, so they were killed. These things are going unless and until the government and police will not take stringent measures to curb such.
So what is such a stringent measure, Mr. Vani? Very quickly, what do you think the government needs to do?
They have to formulate such a policy, and so that this will go once for all, because everybody here in Kashmir is frustrated by killings, and actually so your large section of the society in the Kashmir are against these killings. And if you understand me.
Okay, Ashwini.
Yeah. So a couple of quick points, right? Number one, on the Farooq Abdullah's statement. We have to be very clear. Farooq Abdullah is he's an shrewd, astute politician. So as Mr. Vani said that he is he's losing ground, and hence he's kind of making this statement. That should give you an idea of the mindset or the the large section of population, the mindset with that large section of population, which an astute, shrewd politician like Farooq Abdullah is pandering to. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, so you're saying that he's not a fool. He's obviously, if he's saying these things, he's obviously pandering to the remaining separatist sentiment in the valley.
Exactly. So that's one. Number two, Shivani, we had a in terms of, we were talking about solutioning. We talked about an all-out operation. We talked about de-radicalization and attaching cost to the someone picking up a gun. Last point on that. We, under the pressure at a geopolitics level, under the pressure of US, we agreed to a ceasefire violation with Pakistan. Just because US had to go out of take their leg out of Afghanistan, and hence they brokered this peace and this
LOC ceasefire. I get what you're saying.
Now, what we need to do, I'm sure that that agreement would not have been sort of absolute. What we have to make sure that we attribute all this arms and ammunition is coming from Pakistan.
And we make them pay, like Major General Dhruv Katoch is saying. I'm running out of time, so I'll give a minute to RP Singh. RP Singh, sometimes there is a criticism of the government that you feel you can buy peace in the valley. But that's not the only solution. You don't sometimes accept the genesis of the hate and the violence in the valley, which comes from Islamization and radicalization. You are too soft on separatists, while people who are pro-India are being killed. RP Singh.
Shivani, last 10 seconds, if I may.
Yeah, please, 10 seconds only.
Yeah. So Pakistan at this point in time cannot afford tomatoes. Forget about, we have right now, we are sitting at a $600 billion worth of foreign exchange. We can, I'm not even crazy to recommend an all-out war.
Okay, but you're saying the cost escalation needs to take place. Ashwini, I got your point. I have limited point. Yes, RP Singh, answer my question. Too soft on Kashmiri separatists.
Well, No way, no way. I mean, this government has not been at all soft towards the Kashmiri terrorists, neither soft towards the Pakistan also. I mean, we are very, very clear that no talk will happen till the time terrorism is on by the Pakistan. Talk and terrorism can't go together. This government stated policy. But coming to the Kashmir in specific, democracy. Can I complete, sir? Can I complete?
Yes, please. Just answer the ceasefire question.
Okay, I have limited time. Can I please have RP Singh finish his thought? Please? Yeah.
Sir. So even as far Kashmir goes, the government has tried its best to percolate democracy to ground level, and that is showing results. Development is being rooted through the democratic process which have been done at the ground level too. I accept the suggestion that terrorists whoever is involved, his family should be also targeted. They should also be pointed, and then they should be also probably dealt with in a proper fashion, so that no other family should support such people within the family, and then they need to be brought to book, need to be booked, and then need to be sent to jail also. Last, not the least, people like Farooq Abdullah need to be dealt differently.
And who's going to do that? RP Singh, you're saying he needs to be dealt with. Who's going to do that?
Yes. The civil society has to stand up there and then show the mirror to Farooq Abdullah, saying you are the main culprit for what's happening to Kashmir today.
Okay, I have to leave it at that. I'll try and continue this discussion as we continue to look at the situation in Jammu and Kashmir, especially Kashmir. But I've run out of time. I do thank all of our guests for joining us. Over to the other big story we're tracking. In response to PILs seeking uniform civil code, the central government has told the Apex Court PILs are not maintainable. The centre told the Supreme Court that it cannot direct the Parliament to enact a law, and hence the 6 PILs filed by the likes of Ashwini Upadhyay, Lubna Qureshi and Doris Martin should not be entertained. Earlier, the Supreme Court had urged the centre to clarify its position on the possibility of introducing UCC throughout the country. Now, the petitioners in the case claim that UCC has always been used for religious appeasement. They're seeking a panel to begin with by the centre to prepare a draft on UCC, seeking uniformity in personal laws, regulating divorce, adoption, guardianship, alimony, succession and inheritance, amongst other things. Similar pleas are also pending before the Delhi High Court. Here is more of what the government has said in court in its response. First and foremost, the Law Ministry has said the Supreme Court cannot direct Parliament to enact any law. It added PILs seeking UCC must be dismissed as non-maintainable. But it didn't reject the idea of UCC. Government said given the importance and the sensitivity of the matter, an in-depth study of various personal laws is required. It informed the court that the 21st Law Commission undertook this detailed examination by inviting representations from several stakeholders. The commission's term, though, ended in August 2018, and now the matter will be placed before the 22nd Commission. So there's already been a delay of 4 years. The Law Ministry went on to outline the purpose of Article 44, though, which refers to the UCC, saying the article is aimed to strengthen the object of a secular democracy. Indian citizens following different civil laws is an affront to nation's unity. The centre clarified that it will wait for a report by the Law Commission on the subject, and post that, the government will examine the need and hold consultations with all stakeholders. I also want to quickly outline the BJP government's position on the contentious issue over the last few years. Now, in July 2016, the then Law Minister had reiterated that consultations will be held with all stakeholders before moving towards UCC. Also, the government had added that the state has a duty court to implement UCC. So it has been firmly behind this idea. Even in September 2020, Law Minister had said that the government is committed to honour the constitutional mandate. Current Law Minister Kiren Rijiju in July 2022 said in a Parliament response that since the matter is sub judice, no decision on UCC has been taken yet. He added, though, in a debate that everyone knows what the government's position is on this matter. And in court too, the government has said different civil laws are an affront to nation's unity. So it is all for it, then why the continuous delay? And finally, what is Article 44? It lays down that states shall endeavour to secure a UCC, a Uniform Civil Code, for citizens throughout the territory of India. Now, what is UCC? It's basically one law for all religious communities in personal matters such as marriage, divorce, inheritance, adoption, etc. This is one of the directive principles of state policy. It is not enforceable by courts, but the principles laid down as directive principles are fundamental in governance in India. So the big question we asked today, Will UCC ever become a reality? Is the government buying time? Is it serious about it? Because it's already been 8 years and no movement on it. Kapil Sankla, senior lawyer, Supreme Court, is joining us. Desh Ratan Nigam, also a lawyer himself, leans towards the RSS. Arun Anand is consulting editor, First Post. Maulana Masoodul Hassan Kazmi is a Muslim scholar joining us on the show, and I do thank all of you gentlemen. Desh Ratan Nigam, since you do lean towards the RSS, I want to understand. RSS, of course, is the fountainhead politically and ideologically of the BJP. The BJP has been in power at the center for 8 years. Do you sense that even with the wide unprecedented majority that the BJP government has, UCC is just too hot a potato for it to touch? It just doesn't want to do it. It wants to possibly delay it as much as possible.
No, I don't think so. Brute majority or, comfortable majority, or by whatever name you may call it, does not give a license to anybody to bulldoze any policy. So any policy which comes has to be studied, researched, well thought of, and consultation with all the stakeholders is absolutely necessary. So it's not as simple an issue, but it's a complex issue, and therefore the most appropriate forum is the Law Commission. And therefore the National Law Commission should go into the question, because government.
So the National Law Commission, as I read out, the last term ended in 2018.
No, that study was for a different period. And
what are we sitting on it for?
No, that's what I'm saying. That Law Commission's report has become quite old. A lot of water has flown, and therefore new requirements and new, people as the society has moved on. What do they think? And the latest update is absolutely required. And therefore, in my opinion, then there will be issue of tribals, whether tribals have to be included because they have a separate culture altogether. So that aspect has also been taken into account.
I get all of it. I'm in no way suggesting that UCC is a simplistic issue. It is a complex issue. But my point is, by now, this is one of the fundamental issues the BJP bats for. It's had majority for 8 years. Why has it not come to a report yet? Then the government can move forward and invite consultations, invite stakeholders, put a draft in parliament. But they're sitting on it.
See, the fact remains that the best forum is the law panel that has to go into it. Government cannot do day-to-day such kind of, complex and specialized work.
Fair enough.
And therefore, a specialized body and where they are trying to put it should be the best forum. And
but they could make it time-bound, right? Why is we just going on? I mean, for the last 8 years, I've heard the same response. I read out the response since 2016 from the law ministers of the country. It's the same thing. We want consultations, fair enough. We want to bring everyone together, fair enough. We want to bring it, fair enough. But when is it going to happen? But let me take that question to Arun Anand. Arun Anand, what do you think? Is it just too difficult an issue for the government to tackle? It will do it possibly at a different time when everything else is in its control. You see, CAA hasn't been implemented, farm laws repealed. Then you have this UCC issue. Is there a lack of will or just political climate?
No, I don't think there is a lack of will. Shivani, these are complex issues. And actually, the debate on this Uniform Civil Code, this whole thing started in the Constituent Assembly on 23rd of November 1948. One should basically go and look at that debate, and that, resolves a lot of issues. But as far as this government is concerned, see, there are 25 crore Muslims in this country, and a section of them doesn't want basically Uniform Civil Code. So until and unless there is a broad consensus over it, you cannot, push down the throat a law. So the government has been trying to do it, but there has been a major stumbling blocks in terms of, the very conservative Muslim leadership which has been opposing it. And I think that is, and that I also want to bring in a point. See, it is not. Uniform Civil Code is less of a legal issue and more of a socio-legal issue. So until and unless there is a progressive leadership which emerges from within the Muslims, I don't think, it will be very easy to implemented, it can create, a lot of acrimony. So when you bring in a law, you bring in a law basically for the welfare of the larger society. You don't bring in a law to create acrimony.
No, I don't think that we are there where a law can be brought in. My point is that where is even the Law Commission's report on it? Why has even that not come? And where is the very clear articulation from the government that, okay, this is what we envisage when we talk about UCC? All of that could have happened by now. I mean, as you very rightly said, Mr. Anand, this is not a new debate. We've been debating UCC since 1948. We know the pitfalls, we know the benefits. So what's taking so long to at least articulate your vision for it?
शिवानी जी, हर चीज को करने का एक समय होता है, मुझे
Exactly.
लगता है।
आनंद जी, मैं यही बोल रही थी, समय की बात है।
So like this government, I am no spokesperson of the government, but this government has, Article 370. So you can say कि 2019 में Article 370 हटाया, तो 2014 से लेके 2019 के बीच में क्यों नहीं हटाया? So there are certain government also calibrates politically also what will be there. Then there is an international situation. You have more than 50 Muslim countries with which India has to deal. So there are larger issues. So हर चीज का एक समय होता है. But I'm quite confident that ultimately, UCC, they are going to bring in some of the BJP governments like Uttarakhand government.
They're studying it, yes.
So they have already initiated.
Yes.
Might call it, doing it from the back door. कि कान इधर से नहीं तो उधर से पकड़ा. But their commitment is there, and I think gradually, basically, they will move ahead, and they just don't want to do it, by
by ruffling feathers. Although I do say that it is going to be best if everybody is on board, but you cannot get 100% consensus in a country like India, or for that matter in most countries, even homogeneous countries. 100% consensus or no issue exists. Certainly not an issue like UCC, which is contentious to begin with. Kapil Sankla, I want to understand from you, legally speaking, what are the limitations that bind any government, even though this is a directive principle, in implementing a UCC? Because there are, of course, rights to equality or right to religion, which exist as fundamental laws that sometimes are seen in contradiction to this directive principle.
You're absolutely right. So the concept of directive principle was a kind of a direction or a roadmap to the state to go ahead to protect the citizens and for betterment of the country. But those are directive in nature, they cannot be mandatory in nature. That's one. The difficulty that arises is, as the gentleman before me said, that there are a lot of geopolitical issues that come in. The geopolitical issues could be international, they could be national, they could be internal, external, whatever they are. And so over the years, there has been, one has been vigilante justice where people have risen. The second is when the courts have come to the rescue and probably, directed and made an interpretation, etc. There have been the Bano case, and there are many other cases like that. In this case, for example, somebody files a PIL, goes to the court and says that under Article 32, please ask the center to come up with this law, files a writ for mandamus. And the writ, as you rightly know, are to protect your fundamental rights. And the government comes and rightly says so that this is the work of the legislature. The legislature will do its job. Please give us time. You cannot mandate the government to pass a law or bring about a law. So the difficulty that you face right now is that when a law is passed, it has to stand the test on the floor. And for that, as somebody said, that there are many stakeholders involved, and there is some kind of threat perception to a certain community, that certain rights, certain SOPs that have been granted to them under their personal laws may be taken away, etc. And so those issues have to be met as well, because it will be challenged and challenged again. And then the difficulty that we would face is that somebody would say that this has been shoved down the throat of the citizens or the minority or whatever you have. But having said that,
but
what's really
Kapil, I want to understand from you,
PRN,
legally speaking, are there any hurdles or challenges to a UCC?
Yes, there are. The challenge is this, that from time immemorial, even pre-independence era, it was clearly stated by political and other masters that they will not enter into the domain of personal laws. This was specifically to protect the minorities, but it was also to protect, so to say, the personal laws of various factions that comprised India.
Yes.
So the difficulty, even when the constitution was being made, and even at that time, when at the time of drafting of constitution, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar wanted to bring in, uniform civil code, this was fought tooth and nail. And the difficulty again was not just from Muslim side, but as well as from the Hindu side. Because
Yeah,
at that
I
time,
think there are
Dr. B.R.
sections
Ambedkar
amongst the
wanted
Hindus
equal
that are
rights.
not for the UCC.
At that time is what I'm saying.
Even
But see,
today.
over the years, what happened is that not only there was a lot of transformation internally in Hindus, but also there were various guidelines and judgments and laws that were brought in. And the Hindu laws were structured so to act to create an equal balance between men and women, etc. And way back from 2005, when the Honorable Supreme Court also stated that women have equal co-parental right, etc. But that kind of development has really not taken place in the minority laws. I mean, you've seen what had happened once the triple talaq was raised. I mean, there was so much of hullabaloo. When other issues were raised, there was so much of hullabaloo because the stagnation that has crept in and the desire not to change, the will not to change that is there.
So
is
possibly
creating a lot of roadblocks, a lot of
the
hurdles.
need for a UCC, if it's so unacceptable, could be bridged with certain progressions being made in other religious laws as well, the same that Hindu religious laws, personal laws have seen. But let me bring in Maulana
That's
Masood
what's
here.
been done by Supreme Court, isn't it? As I said, in
Yeah.
the triple talaq case, for example, giving you
But
an
that's
example.
like drip and drabs, right? We need something which is structured and happens possibly on a larger scale in one go. But Maulana Masood, I want to bring you in. The government repeatedly says that they want to bring all stakeholders together and do wide consultations before they even think about UCC. Do you not feel that sections of the Muslim community, especially the clerics, must also have an open mind and contribute to this discussion instead of outrightly rejecting the idea of UCC?
Yes, Shivani ji, very rightly you asked the question. Give me appropriate time to explain
Go ahead.
this question. The motive of proposed UCC is unity, integrity, and empowerment of the women and to liberate women from regressive practices. This is the motive of the UCC. Number one, I want to ask the question from all the UCC champions. When the motive, given this motive, will you include uniform law against cow slaughter across the country? A Hindu undivided
But
family
sir, cow
law
slaughter is not
which
comparable
gives
to
Hindu
personal
brothers
laws.
The tax.
Can I
That's not even a integral part of
He
their religious
wants
practices.
The motive to uniform the country, motive to unite the country,
In personal
motive
laws.
to integrate the country.
Just
So all
the
these
same
such-
way we have same
Yes,
criminal
not-
laws,
but-
same personal civil laws
No,
must apply. That's all.
Hindu undivided family. Hindu undivided family law is also personal law, ma'am.
Yes, of course it
Why
is.
don't you
That also will
respond
get
on this?
uniform.
Of course it
If
is.
you
Nobody is
say
denying that.
If and but then Muslims said, or number two. In Nagaland, we have given religious, cultural, and customary concession to the all people of the Nagaland and for states of the eastern state of the country, eastern region of the country. We have given the cultural concession, religious concession. Are you going to get away with all this concession or not? If the answer is yes, Muslim will be very happy. If you say but Muslim will think that
This is just to target them. Okay, so let me ask you a follow-up question then. Maulana Masood, it is a given that if uniform civil laws come and there is a code, and first of all, this pertains to only specific aspects of personal life. It doesn't go into right to eat, right to pray, right to religion. It just talks about uniformity in adjudicating. One second, sir. It just talks about uniformity in adjudicating marriages, divorces, adoptions, alimonies, inheritance, etc. It doesn't go into your personal choices of other kinds. We must make that distinction. So it is a given that it will apply to all. Then what is the problem? Then what is the problem? It will apply to all. That is a given.
The selectivism.
So what is the selectivism here?
So that is why I am asking. But that is why I am asking, are you going to get away with the religious concession given to the people of the Nagaland?
Yeah,
and
of course.
Northeast.
Eventually, all of those
Are you
questions
going
will
to
have
get
to be
rid of all
answered.
these concessions?
But let Deshratan Nigam respond to that. I think you did
No,
bring
no,
up
no.
the issue of
They
tribals
are not
yourself.
answering.
That how this is a
They
complex
only-
issue.
they
And even amongst the
only
Hindu
dissect the
community,
Muslim
there are
laws.
sections that do want to preserve their personal laws. So Deshratan Nigam, given all of that, do you think that UCC can ever even be a reality?
Yes, it can be in due course of time. And secondly, let me tell you, Northeast is not about religion, it is about culture. And it's not about personal laws out there. They have a particular culture and it has to be dealt with separately among all the tribals. And therefore, Nagaland is a tribal state and has to be dealt with accordingly. Now, somebody said that these are only directory in nature. Supreme Court is very, very clear. Once a policy is made by the government, then it becomes enforceable in a court of law, and it has upheld it many times. Say, for example, Article 46 of the Directive Principles promotes the educational and economic interest of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So there the reservation and everything has come through, and it has become a part of various laws. Prohibition of cow slaughter, various laws have come because they were a part of our directive principles. Prohibition of consumption of intoxicating drinks. Bihar, you recall, is a state where you cannot,
Sir, ban
intake
the cow slaughter
liquors.
across the country,
And
sir.
therefore, एक मिनट शांत हो जाए, मैं दूसरे issue पे हूँ अभी. Therefore, these can be enforceable in a court of law if government wants to implement a particular policy. So they have a much higher status, not merely directly, but enforceable as well if the government makes a law through a legislature.
Or is
Now,
it going to be
yes,
simpler if states actually ruled in this regard? As Arun Anand was saying, kaan idhar se nahi, udhar se pakad lo. Arun Anand, I have 30 seconds left. What do you think? Given that, we do have virtually all communities having some sort of discomfort with UCC. We are a unique, diverse country where we do have, various sections within communities as well. Should we give up on the idea of UCC and instead just look at maybe rectifying certain very grave anomalies like the instant triple talaq and not really be hell-bent on UCC per se?
I think we should not leave the idea of UCC, because if we would be leaving that, then we would be doing away with the dream of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, because it was Dr. B.R. Ambedkar who was one of the most fierce votary of bringing in uniform civil code. So if we consider him to be the father of Indian Constitution, and if we want to carry forward his dream, then UCC implementation is must. And I think it will come in due course of time. The only problem is, I saw my friend from the Muslim community, and I have been witnessing these debates. Whenever you ask a pertinent question, instead of answering the question, they ask the counter question. And I think the worst sufferers, the women in the Muslim community, they need to have a voice, and their voices should be brought forward. I think then we will have much greater clarity.
I've run out of time though. I do thank all of you for joining us. Let's see exactly what committed actions and incremental actions the government takes to make this a reality, if this is indeed a stated objective of the government, of the BJP in power in the center. I'll slip into a very short break. On the other side, we'll get to the day's biggest stories.
That's all what the Congress is. Ultimately, it's a dynasty which is going to run it. It's two Gandhis and two Vadras who are going to run the Congress. And they will decide what is the future of Congress. But ultimately, what Mr. Kadwai said, they are not getting into electoral politics. Where are they in Gujarat today? Where are they in Himachal today? They're not being seen in Himachal and Gujarat.
Okay. We'll really have to see how this plays out. As I said, 19th is when the Congress party will get a new president and also a non-Gandhi at the helm of the party. Will this actually pave way for change? Only time will tell us. Spokesperson of the BJP, RP Singh, continues to be with us. Congress spokesperson Dr. Ronika Mehrotra also now joining us. We have author Advaita Kala also on the panel, and we also have author and senior journalist Rashid Kitwai. Good to have all of you on the broadcast with us. Dr. Ronika, let me begin the discussion with you. The Congress from day one has been saying that this is a democratic process. We are a party that respect everybody. It's a fair opportunity that has been given. All that was fine till the time you had various party members and leaders who came out and openly supported Mallikarjun Kharge, indicating that this is somebody who has the backing of the Gandhis and thus is the favorable candidate. Doesn't that then completely negate the entire process of an election?
I fail to understand if I am supporting somebody or A or B is supporting somebody else, on what grounds can you say that if somebody is backed by so and so? Each delegate has his own secret ballot to vote for, by the way, and each one to his own choice. And the party categorically said, if you want to campaign for a particular candidate, you have to resign from the person who you're free to do it. So each one to his own. I have my own choice, so it's okay. There's no compulsion. So people who are talking about rubber stamp or a backing, let them peep into their perspective first. Let them have a look at what they are doing in the country and what havoc they are playing around with. They are talking about rubber stamp and elections and selection. What are they doing there, ma'am? We have a record. We have a record of 137 years, ma'am. And everything is clear. You've seen how many people have contested. And I'm told the sixth time there have been election, who's contested and who's won, and it goes on. And anything, what is constant?
The only question that I'm
and
raising, and I'm not saying this as any political representative, I'm just saying this as a common citizen of the country, that if you start backing one candidate over the other, what does it mean for the second candidate who still possibly feels he has a fair shot as far as the elections are concerned? And more importantly, what does it feel as far as the election process is concerned? If you do have a backing, why not keep it to yourself till the time the elections are over? But RP is saying, let me bring you in the conversation. The Congress is saying this is an internal process for us. At least we have one. The BJP doesn't even have one.
Well, they are not aware of the BJP internal processes. We have elections every 3 years, and then our party president is elected through a process of election from the polling booth to the national level. There's a complete process for that. But yes, they are holding this after almost 24 years.
Can you tell us the process?
Did I interrupt you, ma'am? Did I hold on? Hold your gun.
RP Singh,
hold your gun.
Can you please tell us the process?
Let
the country know.
Hold your gun, ma'am. Please.
Our process is known to everybody. How about BJP's process, sir? Can you please elaborate? We are not aware of it, but Congress process is aware by everybody. We've been doing press conferences. We've been telling everybody. We're telling our delegates. Can you please tell us how the BJP does that, sir, so that everything is fair and transparent? If you're so bold and so confident, every 3 years you have election or whatever, you do it. Let us hear it, sir.
Okay.
Let me also learn.
I hope this anarchist attitude which they have got to rub off with Aam Aadmi Party will not happen again.
Keep that with yourself.
Okay. Dr. Ronika, I have limited time. I have to go to the other guests also. RP Singh, quickly.
So we have a process, we go through that process, and we don't need to make it public. There's a process which happens. But what about the Congress party? This is happening after 24 years when there was nothing of this sort happened in the last 24 years. Stop. Anarchism is bad, man. I mean, you have a rub off of Aam Aadmi Party. Stop anarchism. Stop anarchism. You have proven to be you are going to be part of the urban
Okay, let's not get personal. Dr. Ronika, it's not going to be fair to the panelists, and it's not going to be fair to the debate as well. The larger question that is still being raised is this, and I want to bring in Advaita in the discussion. The larger question that is being raised is, at a time when you have a host of leaders coming out and backing Mallikarjun Kharge, the message that is being sent out is that this is a man who is seen close to the Gandhis, and that means the key decisions still will be taken by the Gandhis. You can have an election, you can have anybody at the helm, but the key decisions will still be with the Gandhis.
Yes, I think this was an opportunity for the Congress to have two conversations. One was a conversation within themselves, which is to say that, yes, we're having an election after 24 years. Yes, we're going to have somebody who is a non-Gandhi standing for election. And they seem to have carried out on both of those promises. More than 9,000 people, delegates turned up for the election. That does offer it a certain amount of sanctity as far as the interior dialogue of the Congress party is concerned. Now, the second conversation that they needed to have was to have with the general public, who were observing this when they were not observing the
Thanks a lot for staying with us. Let's get you a quick check of the day's top 10 stories. 7 people, including a pilot, were killed after a helicopter crashed near Kedarnath in Uttarakhand today. The helicopter took off near Rudraprayag around 11:40 a.m. and crashed minutes later. Initial investigation suggests bad weather and poor visibility caused the crash. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami and Minister of Civil Aviation Jyotiraditya Scindia all expressed their grief over the tragedy. Tamil Nadu government has tabled a report in Assembly of the commission probing Jai Jayalalitha's death. The probe panel has recommended an investigation into Sasikala's role. The role of Apollo chairman Pratap Reddy has also come into question, as it says that he provided false statements about Jaya's health condition. Sasikala's nephew's role is also under the lens. Tamil Nadu Assembly has passed a resolution against the Parliament Committee which recommended that Hindi be the medium of instruction in all central educational institutions. Tamil Nadu BJP MLAs walked out from the Assembly as the Assembly passed a resolution against what they termed as Hindi imposition. A 7-month-old infant died after getting mauled by a stray dog in Noida's Lotus Boulevard society. The infant's intestines were reportedly pulled out in the attack. Anguished over the incident, several locals held a protest outside the society in the morning. Delhi High Court has dismissed Umar Khalid's bail plea in 2020 Delhi riots case. The bench said they do not find any merits in the appeal. He was booked under the anti-terror law UAPA, was arrested on September 13, 2020 and has been in custody since then. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today addressed the 90th Interpol General Assembly that was attended by delegations of nearly 200 member countries comprising of ministers, police chiefs and heads of central bureaus. Prime Minister laid emphasis on the fact that India was one of the top contributors in sending brave men and women to the United Nations peacekeeping operations. Roger Binny, former Indian cricketer and 1983 World Cup veteran, has been appointed the new president of the BCCI. Binny has taken over the top post from former India captain Sourav Ganguly. Binny said his priority will be to minimize injuries to top players and to look at the conditions of the pitches in India. The pothole menace in Bengaluru has claimed another life. A 50-year-old woman who was hit by a bus while trying to avoid a pothole has succumbed to her injuries. The police have now arrested the driver of the bus. Staying with Bengaluru, right-wing groups held a halal-free protest in front of a McDonald's outlet in the city today. Members of the organizations were seen distributing pamphlets and appealing to the public to celebrate a halal-free Deepavali. Leh has received fresh spell of snowfall today and has officially marked the beginning of winter in the Union Territory. Besides Leh, Khardungla Pass, Changla Pass and other upper reaches have also received heavy snowfall. And in Seen Unseen today, we leave you with a young cricketer from Ladakh who has taken the social media by storm by her cricketing skills and her goals. Thanks a lot for watching.
मैंने बचपन से ही खेलना शुरू कर दिया था, इसलिए अभी आ रहा है मुझे थोड़ा थोड़ा। अभी भी सिखा रहे हैं पापा मुझे शॉट मारना, कैसे हेलीकॉप्टर शॉट मारते हैं। अच्छा, तो सब सिखा रहे हैं। हेलीकॉप्टर शॉट? हाँ, जब भी बैट बॉल खेलने का मन तो होता है, बहुत होता है। जब दौड़ते हैं तो 2 रन लगाते हैं एक ही आदमी, फिर बहुत थकते हैं, फिर खेलने का मन नहीं करता, फिर आउट हो जाते हैं। क्रिकेट मेरा फेवरेट क्रिकेटर है विराट कोहली है। मैं उसके जैसे बनना चाहती हूँ।
Namaste, Jai Hind, and thank you for joining us on this very, very special edition of The Right Stand. If you can see the visuals behind me and around me, you will guess where I am. I'm in ground zero, Jammu and Kashmir, ladies and gentlemen, in the capital, Srinagar, and from 30 degrees to 9 degrees. That's the transition that's happened, and perhaps you can see it in my attire too. But there is lots that's happened in the last 36 to 48 hours, which has also raised a lot of questions.